corridor. And so the person that's going to be speaking today from Creighton will be here till 12. So what we're going to do until then is we're going to just kind of maybe talk about some things that you want to talk about. I have some announcements that we probably need to know about. And if you have any announcements that you want to get out to the group, now is going to be a good time to do that. Or if you have any, I will start preparing questions probably for Father Henderson that you might think of that you might want to start entertaining thoughts about any questions or any statements that you want to make to Creighton about their development or about how you feel they could partner with North Omaha better, since that's going to be what the topic is going to be about. And I'll kind of kick this off with an announcement. Creighton actually reached out, well, actually it was Keep Omaha Beautiful. Elizabeth reached out to a lot of the community leaders, and they're going to have a back-to-school cleanup kickoff for the Creighton students. And so they have decided that they're going to be trying to assist the 24th Street corridor in cleaning up 24th Street. So they're going to be on August 24th, you're going to see different dumpsters and in different locations, and you'll see people just up and down the street, just so you know what that's about. They'll be up and down the street cleaning up different neighborhoods. And so I'm also the president of OIC Neighborhood Association, and I'm on staff at Omaha Star. So we're going to be having dumpsters that are going to be at 24th and Maple, and I think that there's going to be some dumpsters at Bryant Center and down a little bit further, because I know that Precious, I think there's going to be a dumpster at OSBN, if I read the note from Precious correctly. That so all the different leaders are having different are going to be interacting with these students from Creighton to help clean up 24th Street. So anybody that wants anything done or needs anything done on the 24th Street corridor on August 24th, as far as cleaning goes, if you want to reach out to any one of us, now will be the time to do that. I think that's my announcement for that part. Does anybody else have any announcements they want to make of anything that's up and coming that we should know about? Yes.
I was just I want to know, do it have to necessarily be on 24th? Like for the dumpster part, if I got something to put.
Yes, actually, because this is Keep Omaha Beautiful's and Creighton students kickoff. This is their event. They just reached out to us to let us know that they were going to be coming down 24th Street to get the students involved and engage them on 24th Street. And so that was kind of the information that we had. If we would want to participate in that, to reach out to them, where we would want dumpsters located and how many students we would want, because there's going to be 600 students. So we're going to get groups of like maybe 50 to 100 students in different locations helping us clean.
So basically, it's just 24th Street.
Yep.
You put your stuff in the
Yes.
dumpster. Okay.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question?
No,
Okay.
I was just thinking about what he was saying, if somebody here who had a purpose something in the morning, could read something, we could not do that.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the cleanup. Yeah, it's not like the cleanups we have in May. Now, in reference to what you're saying, we will be having another fall cleanup in October, because this is the first year that we've ever tried to have a cleanup, like the city has ever tried to have 2 cleanups in 1 year. We did one in May. That was at Conestoga. And so now we'll be probably doing another one at the same location, but they haven't given us, I don't know, Juanita, did they reach out to you yet?
Yes,
Okay, so do you know the date?
they haven't identified a specific date, but it is in October.
Okay, so I do know that it's going to be in October. I would think it would be around, they're going to do it the same way that they did the May one, so you'll have like different areas that have different times. So I think ours was May 11th the last time, so we're either the 2nd or the 3rd week of May, so that may translate into the 2nd or the 3rd week of October. And we'll be at the same location, which will be Conestoga Elementary School, and then it'll be where you can bring all of your old items, your medals, all of that kind of thing. Yes.
What time you say for that on that dumpster for Creighton
You see it.
It's just different, it's not a big dumpster, it's just trash, where you're gonna pick up the trash and you're gonna have bags. I think they're gonna be starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I can always send something out to people who will wanna know what the times are. They're just pretty much formulating that right now, and it'll be on August 24th, but they'll just have little strategic dumpsters that are gonna be in different locations. Does anyone else have any questions?
So, Jerry just got, Jerry Muhammad, he has an announcement that he'd like to share with us.
So I just want to also put this out there before the gentleman comes from Creighton. We need to think about how we want our interactions, North Omaha's interactions with Creighton to look. We don't always want people to be making decisions for us on the interaction. And I think that that's a piece that will be relevant for us to talk to them about today. Because I know for me, it really disturbs me when people that haven't met us make a lot of decisions for us. And we aren't really included in those decisions. So I think that Creighton coming to actually speak to us about these decisions that they're making or whatever, and then talking about how they can participate with us, that's huge, because we don't get that unless we're always fighting for it or whatever. And they're coming in here, and that's why Juanita entitled this partnerships, because we are partners. We aren't in an adult and a parent-child relationship with these people that are coming in here. We are in a partnership with these people because we have to live with whatever decisions are made. You know what I'm saying? And so we need to be a part of those decisions. So I think it's necessary, and I think that it's prudent. All these people are here, and then we need to be vocal about what it is that we want. If they're coming in, because if we don't say what we want, then we get what we get. You know what I mean? So I think that is where there's enough of us here to be able to voice and have different ideas or opinions, just throw them out there and see where we get with it. But I think that that's something that we need to be talking about. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, there's a gentleman coming, but I'm just kind of killing time right now. Yes, ma'am, because he won't be here until 12. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The old adage, the best way to make a system work is to make a system work. I think this is a pure specific example of how we have not done that. With our Douglas County representatives not only being employed by Creighton, but having a responsibility to handle these kinds of issues in our community, I think it's imperative that either we relinquish that particular position or that position become accountable to this community and identifying these kinds of issues. He is employed by Creighton, and we get no information, but we don't get any information from that system anyway. So I think that's something we really need to look at as it applies to political issues.
But that, and again, what you're saying is entirely relevant, but I would say those kinds of conversations for the gentlemen that come, because like we're all in this room and we can't really do much about what you're talking about. So I would, what you just said, I would actually speak to the gentleman that is coming from Creighton about that too. I mean, I would mention it to him too. I appreciate what you're saying, Elijah, but I'm saying as far as mentioning it, you need to be able to speak to the person that's coming from Creighton about the fact that we have people that actually work for Creighton that are from the community, but we don't really get the information that we should be getting.
Do you know who I'm speaking about?
Yes.
Chris Rogers?
Yes. And so if that's
I think that is our responsibility.
Then you need to raise that with Creighton.
I don't think that's Creighton's responsibility. I understand. I know how you're reflecting that. But he's a Douglas County representative by district to this community. And if those kind of issues, whether he worked there or not, should first be developed through that communication that is established, and he gets paid to do that job also. So I think that it's important that we utilize those mechanisms that are there for that purpose, particularly if they're political mechanisms, and find out why we're not getting those kinds of communications. With his case, there's a conflict of interest because he is employed by them also. So, but I'm just throwing that out. I think it is our responsibility, though, as a community, to develop those lines of communications. And if those lines of communications are already developed, whether it's city council or county representatives, then they need to be responsible to us. And if they're not, then we need to make them responsible. And if they don't, then there's an election coming up next year and they should be removed.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
So I understand what you're saying. I also understand that because Chris is employed by Creighton and because he is our Douglas County Commissioner, those are two separate things in my mind. I'm employed by OEDC, but then if I'm doing something else on the side, they're not accountable for me telling you about them or that. So I think that if we want to address what we are not getting from the Douglas County Commissioner in the way of information that affects our community, that should be addressed on that level. Creighton can't answer for that.
No, I'm not, I didn't imply that. If I did, that was my intent.
Okay, because I think that's what some of us heard.
Yeah.
And I think, right. So I think that it's not appropriate to even bring that up. Chris is employed by them. I'm sure that there is some confidentiality that goes on with his job as to what he can and can't say in the community. But Father Hendrickson is a different bird, because the person that's coming to talk to us is actually the president of Creighton. It's not a representative. And I think we need to understand the level that we are speaking to and don't speak below that.
Yes.
Yeah, not to potentially change that, because I know he's here to speak to us. On September 28th is the 100th anniversary.
Brother, can you stand up so we can hear you, please?
Oh, yes, sir. On September 28th is the 100th anniversary of Little Round. There's two events taking place that day downtown on 17th, between 17th and 19th at Farm. The city, I think, is also addressing this issue, but they're not addressing it in depth. Fight for Justice is dealing with it. We're trying to deal with it from a grassroots point of view, because from my perspective, it's not being properly presented in the community, the value of that day and what happened. So what we're trying to do is bring about a coalition to make this thing happen, to educate our children, and also to reach throughout the city. So I got some flyers here. I know this is not the thing that we want to set up and deal with, but I just want to get this out there. By the opportunity presented it, since you said what you said. My phone number is on it. If anybody want to contact me, want to deal with this, want to be part of it, I appreciate it. So really, we're basing this on solidarity type of move and going across the city. On solidarity type of move, trying to bring the city together educationally, politically, religiously, and even on an economic level, to make this thing and bring it together, because some of our children don't even know any aspect of our history.
Okay, I'm gonna take one more question and then I think I'll send this here.
Yeah, this is another issue, probably like way 2 years out, but we had a lot of problems with trash last time, so a number come to this group, a lot of people said we didn't ask for volunteers. I myself picking up trash, but I know I spoke to Juanita, so like Saturday and Sunday, it was just trash everywhere, so I just want to let you know, I'm starting now working on next day. This group can help me with volunteers. There's a lot of different holes where we have volunteers. So the organizing committee is a new group that kind of came out of the club. It's not the same as different people around the table. So we're just learning some things, and we had a debrief on Saturday. And I know some of the people here, one of the big issues was the trash on 24th Street and the trash on 30th Street. So just letting you know that we'll be looking to get some help from this group.
Okay, so we're gonna say the remaining questions.
On weekend, and I thought maybe they would have some Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts out there picking up trash the next day, because I did notice after all the activities, there was a lot of trash on 24th Street. I didn't ride down 30th Street, but the next day morning, I saw this man with 4 of his kids or whatever, and and they were on Maple Street with bags picking up, I guess, around 24th and Maple, that's the only.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to cut all the questions off because we really need to get to our speaker, and then we can resume this afterwards if there's a little bit more time. So, I'm gonna read Dr. Hendricks, Father Hendrickson's bio, and then I'm going to bring him up here and have him speak to you. So it says, the Reverend Daniel Hendrickson, S.J., Ph.D., became Creighton's 25th president in 2015. He earned his BA from Marquette University in 1993 and entered the Society of Jesus in 1994. He received his MA in Philosophical Resources from Fordham University, a Master's of Divinity from the Jesuit School of Theology at Santa Clara University, and a Master's and PhD degrees from Columbia University. At Creighton, he was a student in the Jesuit Humanities Program, 1996, adjunct instructor, philosophy, 2000 to 2003, and the adjunct professor with the Institute of Latin American Concern Program, 2002. Father Hendrickson was a visiting instructor at Jordan University College in Tanzania and adjunct professor of philosophy at Fordham. In 2012, he became an associate vice president at Marquette and then an associate provost for academic initiatives. He also taught philosophy and education and co-directed a service and leadership program. He became a Creighton trustee in 2013. He serves on the boards of Boston College, Xavier University, and Jesuit Worldwide Learning. His international travels and immersion experiences have taken him to some 30 countries and nearly every continent. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce Father.
Thank you very much for that nice introduction. I've actually met a number of you throughout the course of the last few months in some other conversation sessions. You came to my office, and we've been to some other meetings together. But I just thought I'd take an opportunity to say hello and engage the 24th Street Corridor Group just with some ideas about Creighton and to get some feedback from you folks. If there's any recommendations or suggestions or questions you have. One thing on the top of my mind, actually for the last couple of years, is doing something that beautifies 24th Street but cuts through the Creighton University campus. And every now and then people say you might consider closing 24th Street. That's not anything we want to do, ever, because of the historic connection, historic value of 24th Street, then the connection that goes through the downtown as an access point. But the one thing we're thinking about is trying to beautify that part and then seeing if we can extend more to the north with our facility at the CHI clinic, and then if there's ideas from this kind of community about what could happen to continue enhancing the presence of 24th Street, just the physical presence of it, the meaning, the symbolism, the history. What we have in mind on the Creighton campus is creating a boulevard feature. And we have a practical issue that we're worried about. And we had an incident this summer that kind of intensified our sense of worry. If you can remember, before the year 2000, there were only a couple Creighton buildings on the east side of 24th Street. We had a lot of parking lots. We had a law school, and we had the Fine Arts building, and then a dormitory. Now we have Morrison Soccer Stadium, the Harper Center, two housing centers, the Opus and Davis, where residents life. A lot of our campus activity, the business school, is on the east side of campus, so we have a lot more traffic on 24th Street by pedestrians. And this summer we finally had our worst case scenario. We had a car hit two people. It was a hit and run situation, and the injuries, thank goodness, weren't bad, but we're really eager to do something that lets people know this is the middle of Creighton's campus, but also an important intersection and throughway to the north and to the south and to the downtown community. We had talked last year with the city about creating this boulevard feature and one lane each way with turning lanes around Creighton. And we're all set to go this summer with the construction, and then all the flooding happens in the state of Nebraska and this part of Iowa on the other side of the river. So the contractor said, we'll charge you double and we won't finish. So we didn't think that was a very good deal. So we're going to do it next summer. And I don't think we have audio visual set up. I could bring it back another meeting.
Okay.
But I got pictures of what it might look like. I've shown pictures to a lot of community groups over here in the north side in the last like 6 months. I think it looks pretty good, but we need feedback from the community about that because it impacts the traffic flow just slightly. The one thing it does do is slow traffic down a bit going through the Creighton part, and I hope even coming through this part of North Omaha. I would like that boulevard feature to continue north of 24th Street, well, as far as the city would do it, because I think it's going to look pretty good with trees and plants and just beautification. But it's really top of mind after that accident. Even now, we've approached the city, and now we're kind of liable for situations. We don't even have painted crosswalks, so we have to figure out ways to alert our student traffic and faculty and staff, about possibilities. The accident this summer was a hit and run through a red light. So even with the red light, we have this situation. But that's just one real area of interest for me, is dressing up, renovating 24th Street. All the brickwork around the Creighton part is all crumbled as well. It looks about as bad as it ever looked. But if we can be a partner in that, with the 24th Street corridor, I think that'd be really important. You and I have looked at some of the pictures, and getting feedback, I think, will be helpful. The other big project that we're dreaming about, we can't do it next summer, and maybe not for about another 5 years, is a new kind of library on the Creighton campus. And we want a library that can be available for community use. And to some extent, our library allows for that right now. But it really isn't marketed as such, and it doesn't have the space for that. Now, I'm a little jealous because UNO, down at 55th and Dodge or 60th and Dodge, they have a pretty great community center. And they can bring in and host lunches and dinners and events that aren't really related to the campus life, but are part of the community. And I want Creighton to be able to do something like that. And this is where our neighbors are. And right to the south of Dodge, that's where we have our neighbors. And in Gifford Park, we now have the bridge going over to Gifford Park. So in 3 important directions. So I want to build a new library that's like the library at 72nd and Dodge, the do space, the maker space. We need a bigger facility for our campus, but it's technology and it's workspaces. But I want to create that space where the community can come in and engage events on the Creighton campus. So that's the second construction project that costs a lot more money. It's going to take a lot more time. We're talking to donors. But one piece that's important about that is engaging the community. The third construction project's already done, and it's what we did at 30th, 75 North along 30th Street, is we invested in the Accelerator Center with Owen, or not Owen, with, I'm blanking on his name. Othello Meadows. So we have a classroom, a Creighton classroom. It's not along 24th Street, I wish it was, but it's on 30th, and it's at the Accelerator Center. And it's a beautiful space. And that's being used for the Financial Hope Collaborative and other kinds of programs for community engagement. I think it's been very successful. I'm starting the President's Tutoring Program. We're calling it Enrichment Program. So kids get excited about it. And I've got 2 kids who are Creighton students from the Northside community here. They're Sudanese. They're going to be sophomores. And they're going to run this program with me. And we're starting, they said we want to start small at 10. I said, then we'll start with 30. So we want to start with 30 kids from Kennedy. But it's a start. But it brings our Creighton kids, 30 Creighton students, over to the community with 30 grade school kids once a week for tutoring. So we're going to announce that. But I just wanted to remind you that we have a Creighton classroom over on the 75 North project. Just a couple of things about programs. One is this, I think the clinic here, if you have feedback for me, I'd love to hear it, but I think the clinic here, when we lost our hospital, we couldn't afford to run a hospital anymore. And most colleges and universities around the U.S. that have hospitals can't afford to run them. It's just the way healthcare is. And then Omaha has so many hospitals. So it was painful to lose the old St. Joe's. It was new St. Joe's to some people, built in the 1970s. But the CUMC Center, Creighton University Medical Center, that building is, I think, the best case scenario is now residential units, and it looks terrific. And it's actually fairly affordable. We watch the price point because we don't want to outprice people. But we have some non-traditional folks living there from the community, and we have graduate students and professional students, and some undergraduates, not many. But there's about 1,100 residents in that building. Balconies, 2 swimming pools, coffee shop. And I think it's a real synergy for the neighborhood. But in replacing medical services, the clinic at 24th and Cumming has been way more successful than I thought it would be. And it's not as big as a hospital. It doesn't have the 24-hour services, although it does have emergency room. But the one thing that's new about that we want our community to know, is that it's built in this collaborative care model. So here's what it does. It creates the workspace that a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and a social worker are looking at the needs of the patient. Now the patient signs off on that. The patient agrees that multiple professionals can kind of understand a person's health situation. And it's called a collaborative care model. And it's creating medical care that's more efficient, so it happens a little bit more quickly, because you don't have to go, from the doctor to a pharmacy, then maybe to a physical therapist somewhere else, and then to a social worker if that's needed. They're all in the same space. So it's quicker services for patients, and it's saving money. Now, the healthcare company isn't crazy about that, but we're dedicated to it. We looked at hospital services for the last 6 months in the hospital and the first 6 months in this new facility at 24th and Cumming with a patient crowd of 250 people. And we save $4 million in the system. That's insurance dollars, and some of it is out of pocket for patients. So we want folks to know about the efficiency and the affordability of that model, because I think it's better care.
It reminds me of my dad is 94, he's a veteran, and so he's developed a lot of different issues, but I take him to the VA in the morning. And we walk in the door, and the pharmacist is on the left, EKG lab is down the end of the hall, his cardiologist is at the other end of the hall, down the basement is kinesiologist, his hearing and vision is this building like just 30 feet down out the door, and his primary doctor is right next door, and it's all like within 50 yards. And I mean, we go in there, and then when you talk to one, it all gets entered to the system for the other ones. And you can go to one and the next, and you can go for all these appointments all at the same time. And then, if you need inpatient, you can do that. It's a pretty amazing operation. Veterans, and they all treat him like he's a god.
He should, for his service.
But it sounds like the model you're talking about, where you have all this collaboration, and it's all proximate to where you're at.
It sounds like it's practice as well.
And it's new practices. And people are slow to it. And they're slow to it because the system, they lose a little bit of money in the process because there's less appointments. And so it's a whole new model for people to think about. And one other thing, there's a lot of hierarchies in our lives. There's lots of, folks and stuff that have different titles. This brings docs, nurses, pharmacists, therapists into the same workspace.
And make it less stressful.
And less stressful too. Yep.
A question and then a follow-up. What mechanism does Creighton use to communicate information into the North Omaha community?
Actually, any advice you have on that would be helpful. We have, I think you've met Dr. Chris Witt, and then we have Chris Rogers, councilman who works at Creighton campus, and we're hoping they're coming into the community more. You and I talked about advertising along here. And so we stepped up and did some of that with your, are they the kiosks?
Yes.
So that's less about communication, but I have to tell you, and part of my interest, this is my 4th year at Creighton, I've finished 4 years now, and I told the folks at Christmas last year, I said I haven't had the opportunity to get to North Omaha, and so I think we've had 10 or 12 listening sessions or meetings since last Christmas. We did most of them by Easter. I was over at the Highlander twice this last week for different events over at Thursday.
So you don't have a mechanism that you have in place that communicates information into this community?
I don't think we do intentionally or specifically. I could look
Okay.
into it.
In your opening example, you was talking about the historical trafficking on 24th Street. 24th Street, as far as the North Omaha community, has been shut off since they made it one way starting at Dodge Street.
We're
right.
fighting on that too.
Okay, so that piece has always been in place. The new mechanism that you showed at the Empowerment Network shows the different things that you're working along with Jocelyn.
Yes.
All right, which will, for all practical purposes, implement a conceptual shut-off as far as the campus is concerned, which to me is understandable because it should have been done a long time ago. But when you talk about Creighton's history as it applies to going through North Omaha, Creighton was strategically involved even in the removal of Logan Fontenelle with Armstrong, Bob Armstrong being head of the Housing Authority and also a representative on your board of directors. That collaboration has always been to us understood. Even the activity that you tried to do on top of Hamilton Street, working with the neighborhood organization. So you've been looking in moving in this area over, as far as even we know, 30 years. Okay? Now that the gentrification has taken place, and the texture and the outlook of North Omaha is completely different than what it was. The only true main thing that stays in place is the culturalization historically of the 24th Street corridor area. Some people want to base it upon music and things like that, but there's an ethnic culture because of the segregation laws of 1913 that made that particular community, this community, isolated for black people, period. Okay? So not having those things in place as far as communication is concerned, shutting yourself off at this end concerned, opening up your hospital right there at the core coming in, identifying 4 target entry areas that it can go into. There's not too much more that Creighton should even have to tell us because everything else has been done. Everything's been done already. And that's an issue that I think that hopefully the corridor will take into its mindset that there are historical things that Creighton has done coming into this area that are already on paper, already laid down. Our mechanism of communication that is identified before is through the district representatives and those other people. By you not having any communication lines, we are at a total loss of what Creighton's intent is as it applies to furthering itself north down 24th Street.
Well, for communication, you've got the president of the university right in front of you trying to talk about these ideas and get some feedback. So hopefully that's recognized as an important good step for us. We can do better, and we're working at it. And we've been working at it for the last couple of years. So Creighton's done some good things over the last number of decades, and has done some, problematic things over the last number of decades. So hopefully we can move forward more positively in the relationship. That's my goal in my group. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned about safety when the young lady Lowe got hit down there. And that's what I'm concerned with, safety and beautification along 24th Street. And one of the main things that I see could be a great help is that you lower the speed in this area, lower the speed down, and they put in a signs on there for bicycle safety, so bicycles can ride from Creighton all the way down north. I would like to see that in, and beautification down that way.
We got bike lanes in the plan too, and I think
but we want them all down from, not
I
always
agree.
stopping at Creighton. We want them all down, not Hamilton. We want them all the way down 24th Street.
I agree.
Along with the signs and reduce of the speed
Yep.
for the cars to go.
I think the Sherwood Foundation is doing some work with neighborhood, is they're working with you? So I learned about that, so I went to see them, and I said, if you're, let's work together on the bike lanes and the signage and beautification. So I know there's support of that idea too.
So have you thought about right where the students cross, speeds? Because I do know that my mother is always talking about, we need speed bumps, because you have so many kids, and then there's all these schools that are strategically placed, but kids do have to cross the street at some point to get to these different schools, and I know it's hard to get speed bumps put in the area, but if the speed is going to be a problem, or reducing the speed would help, but it's not a guarantee.
We talked about speed bumps at 19th, at 20th, and 24th in those areas. And the city is reluctant to put them in for certain code reasons. We can go back and talk about that. I think when the road diet happens on 24th Street through our park, I don't think we'll need the speed bumps. We still want them at 19th and 20th, where we still have, that's where all the student athletes and 2 dormitories are down there. So we can continue to think about them in certain areas. I think we'll solve the speed problem to some extent with the renovation of the street, narrowing the traffic lanes, do a traffic circle. We want to do a traffic circle right after the Jericho Expressway. Some of you, I think, have seen those pictures, but that would really slow people down. So there are different options. There's a hand back here I want to get to.
The question I have is that the thing that you want to do for Creighton benefits Creighton. Don't benefit North Omaha. They build all that stuff out there, ballparks, soccer fields and all that, have a World Series here every year. North Omaha don't get a dime of that money except for McDonald's. All I hear is what they do to take away from North Omaha. I don't hear nothing about building any businesses. We got trees, beautifying, that's fine. But we need businesses on 24th Street. You got Benson area, why they knock down all them buildings and move them people out somewhere else and beautify that? Instead, they renovated Benson area about 3 or 4 blocks under the Councilman Feddersen, got it done as well as the roads and the streets. They did the same thing on 24th Street from Benton on down. Every weekend you go down through there, it is flooded with people. It's generating money for that community. But all the folks want to come down here and do is build a house, an unsightly apartment right there on the corner, right there on the edge of the sidewalk, and all this other stuff around us, and the businesses here is starving. They're not making money. And then for the mindset that somehow that y'all have put up on us, is it best for us to shop out west. We have what we want here. We used to have it all here. But the city and everyone else and Creighton, all y'all want to see is take over and push us farther away and separate us where we don't have nothing. It don't make sense. Even all these buildings around, even 275 North, there no black contractors up there. Ain't no black contractors around here in the neighborhood building at all. When they were doing the CHI up in there, the deal up there, a couple of them was there, but what they were doing, they was hauling trash away. That don't make no sense. And I'm tired of that. I've been a contractor for almost 40 years. I built houses and commercial buildings. But yet I can't sit at the table. We got credible contractors that can do what needs to be done. The money that you're going to get these contractors to build that in this our neighborhood, we should be getting some of that money. Before y'all even dig a ditch, we should be getting that money. Not all of them getting it, and sometimes they even pay them a bonus if they finish early. We ain't never got that. When we finish our jobs on time, they get them a bonus. $2 and $3 million when they finish early. That's what your contract called for you to get done on a set time. So I'm saying that to say this. I'm tired of y'all building all these buildings and all this other stuff and planting a tree. Let's see some businesses down here.
We had a neighbor on hard day, they put a barricade in the middle of the street. We used to have them being around one another, we can stop in our cars and holler at one another. We can't even do that because somebody put a barricade in the middle of the street for us. But I took the same time around in Benson, with no barricades out there, and focused on both sides of the streets, cars everywhere. That's insulting to us. Very insulting. We need for us to have our own community and our own thing. So we can be self-contained, so we can once again be a proud people. And not looking for no handout from somebody else. We can do it ourselves. We just get the opportunity. But we got to see now, it won't be given to us, we got to take it. We got to take the opportunity. And let them know we're not playing, we're serious about this. And you can't walk on us no more. It's just that simple. But one person can't do it. The whole community has to stick with us. Thank you for your time.
Sir?
Yes, sir. I'm kind of glad that you came.
Speak up a little louder, Carl.
I'm kind of glad that you came in your humbleness. When I was at Willie Barney's meeting, I got up and walked out because the presentation of the guy was talking like he was kids. I'm not a child. Okay? Brother that just spoke there is not a child. Brother here that spoke there is not a child. Matter of fact, we developed the 24th Street corridor that you see now. We developed the Blue Line Center. We set the business plan in check, but the community did that. Okay? And we've been watching. I was gone for like almost 20 years. So when I come back now, I figure Creighton's already been down here. But the thing of it is, you come here, and I think the brother here, the bishop here, just said everything. And I was at this church's mortgage grant. It was a highly spiritual, cultural thing for me to come out of the black belt. You have to be here. As a matter of fact, I've been coming here every Sunday because of the spiritual connection that it gives to me. And to hear the brother say that he was 39,000 feet in the 39,000 feet in the air, and he got the vision to build a center here. Not way out west, but here. So the basic thing that I'm basically telling you, that he just said it. We built 24th Street. We built the Horizon Townhomes over there. We helped design the interstate when it went through there. But the thing of it is, we have to sit in this room and start dealing how it is. So you should just be sitting up here. You have to come down off the hilltop, get into the valley, so that we can all do it together, so we all feel like we're a part of it. You know, I think Susan Buffett right now, whoever they are, is talking about they have already purchased the technology center. It's the concept that they're talking. So what men do is that they come together and create a committee where they can start working together and start seeing if they can bring the resources in to do that. As a matter of fact, the bishop said something very powerful. In other words, when I drive these streets now, I don't see my brothers and sisters working over. If they look like me, they're not going to be on construction. And we built the pyramid. So, you know, how come we can't help build our community? When we did the Blue Line Center down here, there was a black man named Ambrose Jackson, with his uncle. He did the design. We came in and made sure that we had people in there because we ran it then. We told them, if it's not going to be no black participation in here, I use that term there, then ain't going to be nobody doing no work. Okay, so basically nobody is saying what he's saying. The next thing of it is when you go up to Metro Community College, I was one of the major founders that was appointed by the government in this Congress. So we made sure that Golden Zen told me he had a $15,000 lunch, but he got the deal. So basically what I'm telling you, and I thought you was going to come in, you came in here like the guy, I don't know if it's you, a representative, but you coming in humble. We also have a very powerful church here, a black Catholic church, I think it is. What is
St. Benedict's.
The Moors?
I'm not with that group.
Okay, but
Sacred Heart, we have Sacred Heart also.
That's not a black church.
Well, I'm basically speaking from a black perspective, okay? So that's basically what I'm basically saying. So the thing of it is, you've been here, I think you've been here 4 years. If you got a problem with being black, then you shouldn't be on.
No, I'm not.
Let me deal with mine.
Okay, we just gonna have one person speaking at a time.
So basically, all I'm basically telling you right now is that you're sitting there with resources and everything. The thing of it is coming together so that we can start working together. I know Bishop here, there's a couple other bishops here, and those are the brothers who have brought us to where we are today. I know the pastor of this church, they got good ideas that they want. So basically, from a spiritual perspective, then we should be sitting down talking to each other. Coalitions build a whole lot of things. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say one other thing. Like the Black Panthers, for instance. J. Edgar Hoover said that the Black Panther was the most dangerous group in the United States. Do you know why he said that? Do you know why? Because everybody had a projection of them with guns. But what they were doing is that they were going around building coalitions. A young white dude a young white guy came and asked Stokely, asked Dr. Hewitt, can I be a Black Panther? You know what he said? He said, no, but you can be a white. And that's the same game we're saying here. We're saying here, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to be here. When you have a brother that take his congregation, they set this church down here, this is important to me as it is Creighton, because it looks at my future. And I don't, you know, some folks get a little upset when you say black. I'm not afraid to be black. I'm not afraid to be who I am. I'm a child of the Creator just like everybody else is. But I think those are the things we have to deal with. But your humbleness and coming into this room like this make me want to sit down and work with you. And you know, one of the other things that I would like to deal with is that there's what they call a rendition of what this community should look like. We should get together, not you, not me, not anybody else. But I got some folks I would like to sit down at the table and we have a projection of what we want to see. Then once we put that projection together, like you see in business, more housing, more apartment complexes, like our job when we get to Blue Line Center, because when we were talking about putting hotels down at 24th Street. See, but what they did, they went down Cummings Street and left us out. So basically, those are the type of concepts that we have. You know, Fort Omaha, okay, the OIC building, sitting there empty. If it don't be for the OIC building, there would have been no Metro Community College. So it's a lot of history here. And you coming in 4 years with your humbleness the way you are right now, and we can work together.
There was a comment. Oh, Joe, I missed a hand up here. Go ahead.
I'm Janet Bonnet, I'm from South Omaha. And back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had a really great group of people running up and down 24th Street. We worked together, we had each other's back. And I've seen over time how that's deteriorated and how large organizations like universities, not just Creighton but others, hospitals and some corporations come in and take over the planning of our communities. So I was really pleased to hear you say the historic importance of that connectivity is 24th Street, running north and south all the way through Omaha. And I've heard a lot of people express concern that these larger organizations have community outreach organs within them, that they have people who are directors of community relations and things like that. Those people come to talk to us, whether it's North or South Omaha, but they don't invite us to their decision-making tables. And I think that's where the mistake is. Back in the day, we were at those tables. And we deserve to be back there again. And I think that beautiful relationship that North and South Omaha had, which we rested on that 24th Street ribbon, that is coming back to life. And we're starting to realize that there's a need for us to be at the tables where the pre-decisions are made, where those original designs come out. Not to have organizations come out and say, oh, look what we've done for you, look what we've made for you, what do you think of it? How can we improve it? Well, you can improve it by starting all over and inviting us to the table.
Amen.
And when we see these mega $1 million deals coming in from HUD, South Omaha, we were just informed that a grant was put in for a comparable one in South Omaha. But our South Omaha Neighborhood Alliance didn't know anything about it. And now they've already formed and they've already submitted the grant. We don't know what the content is. I think that's the inappropriate approach that folks are talking about here. We aren't children. You don't need to do it for us. We want to be involved. And then we're a major part of the sustainability of whatever you do put in here. You don't have to keep re-beautifying the street when the people there have buy-in and participated in creating it. They will keep it beautiful and clean. So that's the South 24th Street commentary. Because I've heard it from people in North Omaha in different settings and different venues for neighborhood. It's like, how come we didn't know about that? How come they didn't talk to us? So it's nice that you go to meetings.
But to his
but
point of
still-
communication. too.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Rogers, you know, he knows that we want to be at that table. He's been around through a lot of this time, and he's your head of community relations, right? What's the relationship?
Amen.
And that's what we're asking.
Let me get, I'm about out of time. There's a hand up here. Get the last question or comment or feedback.
Yes, well, you know, it's just through an observation of what's being said, beautification, all that is okay. But our biggest problem is not being represented right through the communities. I think they add some things on you that's not necessarily the problem. You know, based on how things are coming, I think we've been knowing about this some 50-some years, this and that. Ernie brought this to the forefront. You know, the money that was allocated to this particular part of the city, we got diverse away from this part of the city. I'm gonna say this about to my brother about the contracts that's not being given. You know, that's the plan. You know what I mean? They always put that up there,
Right.
and then you always have to do better. And
Right.
then they come in, they measure whatever it is that you've done, and if it's off a certain percentage, you know what I mean, then you got to tear it down and redo it. You know what I mean? So that's a given. You know, you can't take away from really the nature of the beast. You know, but our biggest problem is politically we're not represented right for the simple reason if our city council, just our city council that sit on the building commission and understand what's coming through the neighborhood, will come and pool the resources together from the community because we have the resources. We just don't come in and pool the resources together and establish that because we don't want people building our community and they own and we land and we rent it from them. We want to own our community. You know, and if we don't pool our resources and buy into our community, I think that's what she just said coming down to 24th Street. So don't get upset at the Mexicans or our Spanish-speaking brothers. They own that.
Right.
You know what I mean? They went out and they sacrificed. They came in and people mad at them because they came in and worked hard for less than anybody else. But at the end of the day, pulling their resources, that's what they have. Now they are viable citizens in the community, and they got the ability to say what they want to based in their community. You know, you see, we sitting around here, we still caught up in something that we'll never be part of, based on relying on somebody else to lead. You know, seriously, we got to do it for ourselves. We got to make the sacrifice. And on top of all of this, we're praying right here. They're not responsible for educating us to the point to where we should love and care for ourselves and do things for ourselves. As long as we're using derogatory statements towards each other, as long as we see each other and we see our women for less than who they really are, as long as we're not being taught in a religious environment, educational environment to love each other, we're going to continue to be like this and we're waiting on somebody to give us something. God don't like beggars. Okay, so if we're going to deal with this, we got to pool our resources, we got to come together, and we got to respect ourselves, and we got to move out. So I say to you, put something in motion. If Chris Rogers is not doing his job properly, let's put something in motion, either hold his feet to the fire, you know what I mean, and he do what he's supposed to do for his community is concerned, being great the same way, also the mayor. You know what I mean, if you're not properly organized, and your hands like this, you never get water. In order to get the water to go to the well, if you don't have a cup, you have to cup your hand together in order to get a decent drink of water. So the time for all of that, to me personally, is over. I don't think in those terms. You know, when I've seen this thing, I've seen 24th Street go from buildings to ashes. Now, because it went to ashes, Creighton is allowed to come through and buy what they want. Susan Buffett is allowed to come through and buy what they want. Nobody came properly organized us to stop that. So that's just basically how I look at it.
So I'm putting, because Dr. Frederickson has to go, so I'm gonna, so it's up to you, how many questions you want to take?
James Brown said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. That's right, open up the door, I'll give you myself. And brother, I would like for you, since you're in control of Creighton's thing, to give access to some minority contractors the opportunity to bid on some of these things. That's all I got to say.
One last.
Be more
I
specific.
talked to you guys about this last time. I'll give you a copy. You want to take. So Canada looked at poverty on the national level, and they decided they wanted to lift people out of poverty. And then they did this process that engaged everybody that lived in poverty. They went to people that lived there and said, how can we get more people out of poverty? And they participated in the process nationwide to come up with a plan, and they determined what the guideline was for a dignified life with an income level. And then they set up a plan that took about a year to develop with everybody's input from the community, from the poverty community, from businesses, from colleges, experts, and they came up with a plan. They set a goal to move 20% of the population, indigenous populations, everybody that's below poverty line. They want to move 20% above the poverty line by 2020. They accomplished that last year. And what I keep hearing is all these development ideas. And I haven't been able to find this, is what is the poverty situation in Omaha? And in 10 years, when we have this conversation with whoever, can anybody tell me if that has changed? Because you can have, like, the governor wants to have the third best state in the country for economic development and everything, but if poverty doesn't change, I go to the prisons all the time. You're running 160% of capacity. You've got no rehabilitation. You've got assaults on staff, and those people are coming out. I work at an elementary school. A lot of the little kids there have parents that are incarcerated. It's a history of mass incarceration that's impacted the community, but I think you guys should provide leadership along with the community to look at poverty and along the lines of what Canada did. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's all laid out on their website. And I can see send some people from the community, from Creighton, from the city, go to Canada and talk to them and say, tell us how you did this. I mean, 20%, you know what their goal for 2030 is?
5%?
50% moved out of poverty. And they build resilience in to keep people from coming back. We don't like you in poverty. Don't come back.
Thank you for this. I'm out of time.
Well, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your honesty and your feedback.
All we want you to do is take it back. So fast.
Don't take it back, he's the one.
That you do, get the community involved.
And the other thing we'd like you to do is to come back.
Right.
So we have that.
That's right. Yeah, we'll make that happen.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna bring Juanita up, and, since Father Frederickson was not with her, and let her, share.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate you coming. Now, it sounds like our next steps that we need to do is to go ahead and vote on committees so that we can have smaller groups of conversation so that we can talk to the people like the father in terms of giving him a package as far as what we want to see. He said to me that he's very open-minded to listen to us. So if we can get those committees together next, then we can adequately form a plan as far as how to present that to him, not only him, but to other people that have a desire to work with us to help us see North 24th Street become vibrant again. Did anyone else have anything else to talk about, or no?
I did bring copies of that.
Yeah, you want to pass that out? Go ahead, Jessica. You want me to pass that out? Okay. Go ahead, Jessica.
I wanted to ask Father, but I didn't get a chance, so maybe somebody in here might know. What is Chris Rogers' position at Creighton?
She was out of the room when she said it.
Community and Government Relations government relations.
And do you happen to know what responsibility in that job he has to the community?
He's supposed to be the liaison between Creighton and the community, liaison between Creighton and government.
That was the last one. I can give you the website.
I'll share.
Part of it, I encourage people to think beyond 24th Street. You guys have the ability to bring more focus into the whole community and look beyond 24th Street corridor. It's a much bigger issue. If you look at all the kids that are impacted and families that are impacted by poverty, you guys have input and you can help build a coalition of people to address it for the whole community, north and south, wherever the poverty is.
Well, it has been my experience that you have to have it as an example. You know, this is the third meeting that I've heard you talk about this, but it brings it to reality when you can actually see it.
Well, the way that they did it, they went out and talked to people that lived in poverty, and they took ownership of it.
If we start with 24th Street corridor, so we have a ideal example, we would be able to, it would be easier for the others because we have a template of what needs to be done, evidence that we know what to do, and I know people all over this bad boy, and I guarantee you that everybody wants the same thing. It's just that different people want it their way or the highway.
Well, one of the things, let me say one more thing, is figuring out how many people are below a dignified living level of poverty. How many fall below that? Figuring out what that is, and because if you don't figure that out, you can't change it. You won't know if you've changed it. So you have to be able to figure out how to gather that data.
But Teresa, wouldn't you be able to provide that information?
Actually, my head is spinning right now. I'm trying to think of, not specifically, because there's so many different factors, and it depends on what we're considering.
Well, first of all, you have to define what's a dignified level, because it's not the level the government says is poverty.
No, and if you look at the Canada model, it's in their model, they defined it really well. And they took a look at what a dignified level is, and they broke it down into, all the different things that a family would have, recreation and everything.
But we also want to consider what Ellen was saying, expand, just stopping at 24, the Hamilton is not going to, be the Hamilton going to go further, that affects all the areas, 24th Street, because, just stopping, from up at Creighton all the way to Hamilton, that's not going to work.
And, years ago, they had the OIC building, and I was in, it's a historic type building. And I would love to see Creighton or someone come in there, and they have more training, because they are, the young man mentioned about contractors. I was a contractor too at one time. And in order to be a good contractor, you have to do your job well. Because otherwise than that, if you don't do a good job, people ain't gonna hire you. I was an electrician, and I worked for years doing city rehab for the city of Omaha. Till my boss died. I didn't get my license, but you have to do a job well, and we need training back in North Omaha. Even with the people that are coming out of the prisons, they need to be trained to do a job and do a job well.
I was wondering, did I miss how you're going to formulate the committees? Because maybe that's one of the baselines, is to determine how we are going to define poverty ourselves, and then when you have your data, it comes out of that same group, those same definitions.
Well, we're in the beginning stages of forming those committees.
So do you have a suggestion? on how to formulate the committees?
Well, I guess depending on the outcomes, what we're looking for, then we can, whoever's interested in, if it's the poverty thing, or if it's the development itself, or is it, whatever people are interested in. But I don't know if I was thinking maybe they were circulating a list that had different ones people could serve on.
Well,
I didn't know what
Well, we haven't done that, but at our next meeting, I'll have a breakdown of what those committees look like in a brief description under that committee, and then we can plug our names under that. Because based on this conversation and the last meeting, we're ready to go to that next level. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the things I heard OIC mention, and Elijah is a historian, and he can take it back to the key of it. The reason that OIC is set down there is because of Salem Baptist Church. Reverend Wade basically built that himself. Dealing with Dr. Sullivan, they took it all over. So when we're basically talking, those of us who are not afraid of being who we are, that was our training set. They put that together, they did it themselves. That's why I was so glad to hear Bishop Hammond speak up, because they did this stuff. They did it themselves. And so when you start talking about this community, then when we start talking about building coalition, from Cummings, and I like saying this, from Cummings to Fort, from 16th to 30th, that's 3.3 square miles of land. Basically, based on what Elijah tells you, this is Hebrewic land. They came in and what was it, 1611?
1913.
1913, they built this area. They was known as the blacks, and we came in after them. They came in here. And so what you're starting to see right now, one of the most beautiful things that I love about what Susan did is I thought we was going to lose that building, but she took the topographical research, not the topographical research,
Business.
way back, but
Business technology.
took the technology center and is going to change it back to something that will be productive in this community. But we have to build coalition. One of you is doing a heck of a job, man. But we have to build coalition with my lady. We need to talk. I'm from South Carolina, too. I grew up on 3030 Dudley Street. Okay, but the fact of it is what you were saying. They shut down all of that forces. And so now you have people just doing what they want to do. See, if you don't want to work with me, you can't work for me. If you don't want to speak to me, you can't speak for me. If you are an architect and I got a dream house, I come and get you to do my house, but you don't come back and you show me your plan, it ain't my house.
You were going to say something, Jeff?
Yeah, so I just want to kind of put some things out there about the OIC building. So I think that we need to, I personally have tried to talk to the lady that's on the board of OIC, and I walked past there this morning and I noticed that there's all these notices from the city that are on the building windows now. So there's no longer any care being taken in the OIC building, and I've gone to several city leaders who I'm trying to get them involved in like taking over the OIC building. And personally, at this point, I don't really care who takes over that building at this point, because right now it is just becoming an eyesore and it is just deteriorating. And there's just a lot of stuff that goes on with that building. If the city reclaims that building, what people don't understand is that the building cannot be sold to anyone. It has to be relinquished to another 501c3. And that the other part is that part of OIC was built on city property. So if anyone remembers Corby Park sits underneath half of OIC, the left half of OIC sits on Corby Park, which was given to OIC by the city for 99 years for $1. On the premise that there has to be at all times some type of educational something going on in that building, or they want their land back. The only way they would get their land back is if OIC was torn down. So it is in the best interest of this community to come together and help the OIC Neighborhood Association talk to people who are in power about that building if they want that building to remain intact before the city claims that building, because if they claim Corby Park back, which they can do any day because that building is not being used for the purpose that it was supposed to be used, that building will be torn down. We will not have that building for anything at all.
Okay, and Ernest, and then Ms. Ellen.
I was gonna say, I think you need to be careful. I know we're talking about using on OSBN. I think you always have to be careful when anybody has an monopoly. So right now, you've got Sherwood owns OSBN, Greater Bethlehem Temple, daycare. I mean, you don't want, I don't care who it is, you don't want anybody to have that kind of power over your community and that kind of monopoly. Even if it's in the best interest, that's dangerous. It's just, in anything, when you have that kind of monopoly. So I just think you need to be careful putting all your eggs in one basket and say, yeah, that one entity owns so much of this community. That's just my opinion.
Ms. Ella, and then
Okay,
Carl.
since she mentioned about OIC, I would like to mention again about OIC. And also to see can we get Creighton, since they say they want to be out this way, for training to come in and try to do OIC. And that would be good to have a training back in there, because we do need people to come in for training. We have too many people that's in jail that's coming out with no training, and we need quality training for people that come out.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, Ms. Ella, that isn't the problem. The problem is the lady that is over the board. So it's not that we can't haven't tried to put anything in the building, because Pastor Lassiter actually wants the IMS.
There's several people, you're exactly, there's several people there.
To actually want to go into that building. So it's not that we can't find anyone to go into the building and do different things. It's that we can't get the lady that's over the board
Who works at Creighton.
Cynthia Jenkins, to agree to allow that to take place. So I think it's almost like she would rather the building be destroyed than to have it be viable again. And I think there has to be some
She
pressure
works
from
for Creighton.
the community on the board to.
It sounds to me that you need to get Chris Rogers, write a letter to the president now that he's been here, to tell him that Chris Rogers needs to hold a meeting and invite the people to the table who are concerned about that building, so that everybody gets their reading from the same page. Because too much seems to be going on behind the scenes, there's too much confusion, and somebody needs to come up with a clear decision on it, because whoever this person is that has all the power, this Jenkins person, that's not right.
Chris Rogers works for Creighton also. I explained that in the first part, and we as a people, understand when I say this, I'm not saying particularly in the house that we're in. We as a people have been miseducated in spirituality. It doesn't come from our core, it comes from our outside in. Basically, it has been forced. We are in charge of any political system. If Chris Rogers or Ben Gray or whoever has a responsibility to do something, we don't bypass them. Right. We don't overlook them. Right. We make them do what they are supposed to do, or we remove them.
But I think that's what Janet just said.
Yeah.
I understand, all due respect. He works for Creighton. He works for Creighton in a communication position to do exactly what we're supposed to do. He holds no mechanism of communication to this place at all. For us at this point in time saying we need to do that, no, we don't need to do that. We need to remove him. Period. All right? Now you can bring him to a forum and tell him that if he doesn't do this in a certain period of time, we're going to remove him. But then you're going to find out, well, I'll let you find out, I won't even tell you. Then you're going to find out what you're dealing with, all right? We can't take normal strategies and getting done what we need to get done, because the people that are in those positions know us and know how we're going to respond, and they're obnoxiously ridiculous in their communications with us. Neither one of those two individuals communicate to this community at all. Ben might do a town hall 2-3 times a year, whatever. Chris Rogers says nothing, no time at all. Why? Because he works for Creighton. He graduated from Creighton. He came here to go to school from Creighton. He only has one loyalty. Now we can go through that and that'll come up in the committee structures. I want you to understand what time it is.
So, Carl?
Tommy, that's a beautiful idea. And the way you do history, I mean, the way you do research. And so when you're speaking, you speak to facts. Not emotional, not anything else, but just the facts. And everything you just basically said with the other stuff that just came down, it is time now to have this brother here, the priest that just walked out, get some other folks, and we sit down and we start dealing with that bill. In other words, they can't go out the back door no more. The lady that's sitting right here. And then the next thing, I made this several times, Susan Buffett, don't own me. I belong to the Creator. I believe in universal concepts of things. And I'm not afraid to stand. And I got a new saying that I'm going to start saying more and more. When the power of love supersedes the love of power, then we can change things. Huh? So it's already in change. Because what's happening, what I'm basically telling you now, what you just said, what I just said, what he just said. We put together Bishop Ham, asked this man up here would he sit down and talk to you. You could be my rep, sit down and talk. And then get somebody from Susan Buffett's board to sit down and talk. Get somebody from OEDC to sit down and talk. And get us a few community, get the pastor out of this church.
Oh,
he ain't
yeah,
excuse me, brother. He ain't talked about nothing. He did it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm basically saying. Then we start working there. Then you know what's missing in our community? We no longer have 4 or 5 folks sitting up front talking to us. Then after they get through making their presentation, then we ask questions.
Right.
Then what you watch is you watch the spirit go up.
Right.
I ain't left this church since that mortgage burned. It deals with me so bad, so deep, it turned me upside down. But the thing of it is what this brother's about. He ain't speaking. Then when I saw the mechanism of people, he didn't have no 200 people.
No.
He had some dedicated, determined people. That's why you sit in this building. I don't need to do all that, but anyway.
Right, and this young lady here who wanted to say something, we got 5 minutes left and then we should end the meeting here.
What I'm hearing is that we always say 24th Street, let's beautification, 24th Street, let's get 24th Street done. 24th Street this, okay, from Cummings to whatever. This is what needs to be done. This is what beautification. But we need to get specific. Let's say 1 block at a time that we can get it done. Is there, with Chris, is there any way that he or do we need to start writing grant money, getting the same money that Creighton's getting? How do we get started? Like Tanya says, maybe we should start with OIC.
That's why I had
1 block at a time.
We're talking that we need to shift it to a committee so that we can start making plans. That's where we're heading. So that's the direction, because that's what I'm hearing everyone say, that we recognize there's a need. Now we need to take action, and to do action and do it effectively, we need to discuss it in a smaller form, and then maybe bring it back in terms of here's what we feel needs to happen, kind of a thing, and get you guys to buy into it.
I'm curious about the structure of Creighton's system for Chris Rogers' job, or maybe they have another department that does more everyday community outreach rather than community outreach to organizations. Too many city meetings now are, we need to find out what Chris Rogers' actual structure is. If he's the director of community and government outreach, who does he work with? I mean, what's his director there?
Okay, help me with this, because I don't see Creighton as the biggest threat. One is I don't think Creighton owns anything past Hamilton. 2, Creighton was in front of us sharing something.
Right.
I don't see anybody from Buffett sharing.
Right.
I think you guys your threat is not Creighton.
Right.
So I think you guys need to
Creighton
focus.
is the door. We need a fly on the wall in Chris Rogers' meetings.
I agree,
to find
there's
out.
conversations, but Creighton doesn't. What do they own past Hamilton? I mean, I think you guys are focusing on the wrong thing, that's my opinion.
They own a tremendous amount of property.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
From Hamilton down to.
All the way down, and I can go into some specific details as it applies to their responsibilities to the churches within that community. Okay, any church falls up under the Archdiocese of Omaha. All right, Creighton even falls up under the Archdiocese of Omaha. Creighton owns a tremendous. That's why I brought up the piece about with Bob Armstrong and Logan Fontenelle. Creighton owns a tremendous amount of residential property. Between Hamilton and Lake Street, tremendous amount. And if the parish of St. Benedict's doesn't alter what they're doing presently, they're going to lose that whole Bryan centerpiece to the Archdiocese of Omaha, which is the same as Creighton.
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree.
Well, I don't want to, I'm a visitor here, I'm a guest, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I didn't mean to paint Creighton as an enemy or something, but they're a moving force. There's the four cornerstones of what moves Omaha is not the government, and it's not allowing people in. They're the Catholic Charities of Creighton and a group of very powerful people that participate in that group. There's the government forces, and then there's the land developers, and then there's the planners and designers who tell the developers where the development's going to happen, and then one gives the permission and the other one gives the funding. So where they may not be the enemy, they're working in concert, and we're not.
Right.
And that's where our issue is. So we need people at those tables. We need to pay attention. We need to be reading where the government is setting up contracts and asking for bids. Those street diets that he was talking about, I was looking for them all over the internet. I had not heard about them before, and I wondered why. I'm an active community activist for the last 30 years. Street diets, that study was done by the health department. Douglas County Health did that study, and it was a recommendation for safer streets. That's how they justified it. So it didn't come to us until it was already formulated and done, so we got to see the pretty pictures. So that kind of stuff we need to be up on, and we're not, because we're assuming that there's only one group that we have to deal with at a time. We have to deal with all those.
All of them.
This is an octopus, okay? And Father Hendrickson stood right here and talked about his relationship with Sherwood. So it's not like I totally get what you're saying, Ernest. That Susie owns a lot of stuff and it's dangerous. But Susie isn't by herself. And so I think that she's in the room with Creighton because it's to her benefit to be in that room. And since we're not in that room, we don't know who is.
No, I agree with you.
And I guess that's just where the conversation, I guess that's where I'm trying to get, I guess in my mind, that's where I'm trying to just make sure that when I'm talking about like stuff that I see when I'm walking, because I make sure that I'm always walking my neighborhood, whether it's 22nd or 16th, or I'm always walking to see what's going on in my neighborhood, because you're never going to know if you don't walk in and you don't talk to people or whatever, because there are people in my neighborhood that have pieces of the puzzle that I don't have. And if I'm not listening to them or trying to stop and have these little brief conversations or whatever, I'm never going to know everything that's going on from Benny to Lake, from 27 to 16, because I'm never going to be able to be in everywhere at once.
I just want to say, I've been in this dog fight for a long time. And when you become...
Speak up a little more.
I said, I've been in this dog fight for a long time. As a teenager, during the period of when always been taught to be open-minded and recognize basically my biggest love is my people. Okay, seriously, I'm not going to be no crap about it, because I was fighting for Head Start when they started taking over Head Start, when Susie Buffett started doing the learning centers and different things like that.
Educare.
Yeah, education centers. But she didn't start it on. And this thing started in other parts of the country, in Washington, D.C. You have to understand where this thing is at. And anytime you want to grab a community, especially in black communities, You don't go to the street, you go to what is called the religious community. And that's what sold this community out. Whether or not y'all want to accept it or not, that's what sold this community out, as a religious community. That's how they brought the interstate through.
Yes.
Okay? I sit there, I watched it, I listened to it, and people that you put at the head of your religious ideologies and thoughts, they was part of this because what is called in the Bible is filthy lucre. Okay? And I watched the reverends sit down and do this. And they done the same thing with Head Start. You know what I mean? I went personally because I understood where the Head Start originated from. You know what I mean? It originated from a concept that was put into motion by the Nation of Islam. Okay? Black Panther took part of it. So Black Panther issued children community welfare and dealing with the community lunch programs and different things like that. And that's how Head Start began. The community was taking care of it. They put pottery and different things like that. The families came in, and that's what they've done. Then they got a grant through I think who was Lady Bird Johnson. You know what I mean? So that happened. So they got that. So they started giving money across the country. So now Susie Buffett come in. When Susie Buffett came in, it was a $6 million a year grant money that was given to Head Start. Bob Armstrong helped them get that money out of the hands of the community. And the basis of that money was going to women that was coming in and helping and getting employed. So they started upping up the level of what you have to be able to do in order to teach your children. Those women was going into Metro Tech, getting their certificates and their degrees to do that, but they kept upping it. Now, Bob Armstrong come in and he become the CEO of the person over it. He sells it out because what he does is he spends all the money and put them in the red. Okay? He puts it in the red, and that's when she came in and she took it over. Now, I'm telling you, at the time of this that was going on, I sit down here on 24th in Ohio at the church.
Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah. I sit down there with the pastors trying to get them to let's go out in the street and stop this movement on the takeover of OIC and how important it was, because 90% of that was black women teaching our children. Okay? But when they took it out, the pastors wouldn't get behind it. Frank Brown, not to say nothing because he's not amongst us, Frank Brown wouldn't get behind it. So I'm sitting here, you know what I mean, looking like an idiot because of my love and concern about what was being, that was an income that was taken out of the black family for young women that was trying to get past their situation condition. A lot of them don't want to go to college and get some type of degrees behind it. So what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, we can do all you want to, but if your preachers is not on board, if they're not coming in, all they want to do is hit a drum and throw the piano and cause this thing, and you get up and get emotional on Sunday, but you leave out and you don't have nothing to attach yourself to reality. So at the end of the day, we got to come up out of this. You know what I mean? This game is killing us. You know what I mean? Because you done bought into a system, as Brother Elijah said, you bought into it from the outside in. You're not dealing with them from the inside out. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if you know who you are, if you're dealing with your reality of who you are, you'll hold these people accountable. Your political system, based on how you participate in it, you individually vote. Okay, so now the Spanish is not individually voting. The Jewish people is not individually voting. We individually vote because somebody brought you some they brought you some chicken in the back door. You still eating off of this chicken, waiting for something to change. The individual is getting something. The majority of us is not getting anything.
That's right. Okay, it's 1:01, so we have to wrap this up. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you everyone for coming. Our next step is to get those committees together. We will present those committees at our next meeting, and then you guys the father did come and he entertained us.
That's right.
If nothing else.
That's right.
Which is a step in the right direction that we probably wanted to go to. As Janet pointed out, we haven't had many seats at the table. Perhaps this is an introduction to that seat at the table. So we have to look at all of these. We can't, it's like a baby. The baby he initially crawls and then they get up and walk. So it's kind of like that. So just keep that in mind.
The umbilical cord has to be cut.
Yeah.
Can I add one more
But
thing
the
in?
umbilical cord is cut after birth.
Okay. I didn't even birth.
The OIC piece.
This is a good start.
Yeah, the OIC piece is a very strong piece that we need to look at. The original downfall of OIC occurred when Bob Armstrong pulled the city money out of their program. All right? And that set the tone for them to have to totally rely upon their own resources. And that has been the constant downfall of that all. And I'll go back again. As head of the housing authority, he also sat on Creighton's board. That's a very key. Y'all need to really understand that this thing is designed.
Right. So my understanding is, why do we think that these students
Once again, thanks.
don't have the same love for them?
Huh?
Why do
Can we
think they
continue that at the next meeting?
don't- You want me at your next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be here, God willing.
All right.
Of course, God gonna be willing, because you ain't through yet.